Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's Shadow at Night for Thursday, May 29th, 2025. And on the show tonight from KICLEI and Gather 2030, both available on Substack, Maggie, Hope, Braun. We're talking today about the UN climate agenda and their arm that has infiltrated every single country on the planet called KICLEI. Maggie has created an organization called KICLEI. And KICLEI has been deployed to get rid of these UN climate agenda plans in different municipalities across the country. The latest one being Lethbridge, Alberta. She's got some great news for us in that regard tonight. And then many people ask me, how can I get involved in this? And I say, well, get a hold of Maggie. Just go and sign up for KICLEI on Substack or sign up for Gather 2030 on Substack. And they do. And it's amazing. She has garnered in the neighborhood of 15,000 followers just in the last few months based upon the work that she's been doing. So I'm very excited to have her on again tonight, and we'll bring her on in just a second. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by our friends Kevin and Anna at CanadaNanoSilver.com.
It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
And there it is, Canada Nano Silver, CanadaNanoSilver.com. You can call Kevin and Anna for more information on the science behind this stuff. They know it all, like the back of their hands, man. 204-808-9292. I was just in last weekend when Tamara was through town. We had this little bash that was at Kevin and Anna's place, and he brought me into the product room, and it was like, the vault, man, the silver vault. And they have the new product. It's the eczema and rash cream. And you want to check that out on the website, CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you want to contact them, if you want to be a retailer of these awesome products, or if you just want to grab some yourself, hit the contact tab right in the upper right-hand corner of the website. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. Who's here? Who's watching tonight? Sherry, hello. How are you? Sherry is watching on Facebook in Winnipeg. Tony is watching in Calgary. I'm going to be there tomorrow night on my way to Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, British Columbia. Pretty excited about the chance to go and see those guys and to meet many of you along the way. Hello, Ivan, watching on YouTube in Calgary. Susie is watching in Ontario on Facebook tonight. Barb in Stony Mountain. Hello, Colleen. How are you? I hope you're well. Colleen Brandsey, everybody. She's watching from Kawartha Lakes on Facebook tonight. Al in London, Ontario. Louise in the same city. Hello, B, watching in from Campfire, Manitoba. Is that a thing? How do I not know there's a town called Campfire in Manitoba, unless you're just pulling my leg? Hello, Doreen, watching in Brandon. Yeah, I'm going to stop there tomorrow as well. Joanne is watching in Northern Ontario. We have many evacuees from the wildfires that are burning across Northern Ontario and in Manitoba, and we wish them all the best and hope for their safety and pray for their safety as well. All right, our special guest is coming on in just a second, 30 seconds as a matter of fact. Maggie Hope Braun, right after this short interlude. Hi, Maggie.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you doing? You look great.
Thank you. Yes, I'm doing good. I'm happy it's almost the weekend. Can you hear me okay? I had some mic
Absolutely.
trouble.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got you loud and clear.
Okay.
You've got some great news. I've seen you talking on your social media about what's happened in Lethbridge. Can you fill us all in?
Yeah, so last year there were residents that went in and did delegations and planted some seeds about, what is the FCM and ICLEI and how are we involved with it? And we seem to have this climate action plan and these reduction targets. And, they kind of planted that seed. And then this year, thank goodness, we're encouraging everyone to watch their local agendas and keep an eye on things. And turns out that the staff were putting forward a recommendation to reduce their greenhouse gas reduction target under the Partners for Climate Protection program from 40% to 20%. And they laid out 4 different options, 2 of them towards 40% and 2 of them 20% or business as usual, 17%. And
how are they planning to do this, Maggie? Were they planning to switch their car fleets to electric and put in charging stations, or what were their plans? Do you know?
Well, they didn't really have a plan when they adopted the 40% reduction target. And that's the problem with these programs. They are taking the recommendation from the Partners for Climate Protection program, which on their website, they say that they're taking it from the IPCC recommendations. So it's just this number, 45% by 2030 and 50% net zero by 2050. And nobody's actually doing a cost analysis on what they're actually going to do and how much it will cost to do this. So that's why we so appreciate what the staff did in Lethbridge, because they actually laid out the cost. And, for Lethbridge, just their municipal operations to get 40% reduction would have cost over $83 million. And that's why the staff kind of came back and said, we should probably look at this number and reduce it to something reasonable.
How do they come up with a number like that? Like, is that over a stretch of time, or is that all at once, this $83 million?
It would be between now and 2030, because these aren't just hypothetical numbers that they throw out. When we hear the 2030 agenda, it actually is a goal that by 2030, they want to reach their reduction targets. And with the Partners for Climate Protection program, a lot of municipalities, so there's 522 municipalities officially under that program and many others that have climate action plans. And they are recommending this 40% reduction, and none of them have actually cost it out. And they're not pulling it out of thin air. They are hoping that municipalities will buy carbon credits or get into the renewable energies. And that was the only way that Lethbridge could get to 40% is by buying carbon credits.
Can you explain carbon credits for the audience, please? Because I'm still, after hearing probably 20 different explanations from 20 different people, I'm still unclear on exactly how this system of carbon credits is supposed to help the environment.
So I'm doing an article. It'll come out next Monday on the KICLEI Substack, and I'm breaking it down. It is kind of complicated. It goes into there's brokers, there's so there's essentially traders that are making money off of this, right? And they group together different projects that are considered to be green energy projects of a sort, and group them all together, and people can buy carbon credits. So instead of reducing their CO2 emissions, they can just buy credits to basically invest in the green energy project somewhere else. So they're not really investing in their community. They're just buying these offsets so that they can continue to use energy like every Canadian community kind of needs to do.
So these offsets, these carbon credits, whatever, they're designed so you're still spewing all of that horrible CO2 into the air by doing whatever it is you're doing, but you pay for it so you don't feel as bad. Is that the whole premise behind this?
I think it's just so people can, these multinational corporations and huge utility companies, most of them foreign, not Canadian based, can make a ton of money. A lot of money. So when you think about it, just Lethbridge alone, just their municipal operations, just to get to 2030, just in the next 5 years, $83 million. And like
with
the
no
projects,
plan.
So 20 million of that was actual projects that they could do in their community to make their community better and more efficient. The other 63%, pieces of paper, carbon credits for this credit system that they're trying to create.
Paper. That means they're cutting down trees.
Yeah.
So what happened in Lethbridge? Did you have any impact on this? Did some of your team members have impact on this? Did they reach out to you? How did that go down?
Yeah, it was awesome. We got, I checked my email probably 2 days before May 1st. I saw an email come in from Joan in Lethbridge. She's been following the work, and Lynn as well, 2 members that have really been following closely in Lethbridge. And they said, hey, this is up on the agenda. And I had a look at it and I thought this is great. The staff are recommending it. Of course, the council will go for this, right? And just encourage them to kind of go in a supportive role and provide more information about our concerns with the Partners for Climate Protection program, but also just to know that they're already in a good place. So not to get too excited. We don't want to scare them off. We want them to do this, right? This is a good thing. And they went in and the staff did their presentation, laid out the options, made their recommendation, and then one after another.
Maggie, you should have told me I had toothpaste on my face here.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. You always look great.
I noticed it right now. Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Well, anyway, you were talking about
a plug for Kevin and Anna and their amazing toothpaste. It was
the
just
silver toothpaste.
There.
I was using the cinnamon tonight. Anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, I sat there and I watched. I knew that this was going down in Lethbridge. I was probably like the only Canadian tuned into Lethbridge Council that night. And they did their presentation. And then one after another, Lynn and Joan and their group, I think there was maybe 10 of them, went up and just slammed them with all of our main talking points. And then some of the councillors were putting forward basically our talking points as well and bringing out our concerns. So I thought it was great. And afterwards, we just found out that we couldn't do more delegations. That part was over. So they called a house meeting, and we've been doing that a lot. People have been doing house meetings with KICLEI and bringing KICLEI people together and talking about what's going on in their council and what's on the agenda and how they can influence the council to make better decisions. And I zoomed in for that, and we just came up with a list of 10 great letters that we could email them, and we kind of spaced it out. Okay, every 6 hours, they're going to get another amazing letter from us about a different aspect of this program that we would like them to be aware of. And yeah, when it came down to vote, the mayor was actually wanted to table it for another 2 weeks because he was getting all of these letters and he didn't have time to review them all. And a few of them wanted a bit of a delay, but at the end of the day, they voted to reduce the CO2 reduction target from 40 to 20. They saved themselves $63 million. And, this is something we want the Canadian Taxpayer Federation to kind of pick up and get the story of so that they can help us all across the country to save this kind of money in all our municipalities.
Yeah, we should get Franco Terrazzano on the show and have a discussion with him about that. He's got a lot of fish to fry doing that job. So we had a conversation, Maggie and I, this afternoon on the phone about how this works, and it's still amazing to me that there's so many council members in so many cities and municipalities across the country that have no idea that their cities are tied into these climate plans. And you've already talked about so far the Partners for Climate Protection, and that is the Canadian arm of ICLEI, which is from the UN. Am I correct?
So the Federation of Canadian Municipalities?
No, the
Sorry, can you
Partners
say
for
that
Climate
again?
Protection.
Okay. So the Partners for Climate Protection program is a program that ICLEI, an organization founded by the United Nations to influence local governments worldwide, ICLEI partnered with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and launched the Partners for Climate Protection program in 1994. But it's a 5 milestone program, and that same program is embedded in other countries all around the world. So the same 5 milestones. So collect a whole bunch of data on energy consumption and waste, get a baseline data set a reduction target, make a climate action plan, implement that climate action plan or adopt it, start spending money, and then monitor and track progress. So 5 milestones, right? And it just keeps repeating. And it's really like a mini Paris Accord. And you're right, a lot of councillors and residents and Canadians have no idea that their municipalities are signing up for this. So even in the council meeting, when they adopt the resolution to join this program, they have no idea that they are signing their community up for a mini municipal Paris Accord.
And all of these climate reduction plans, every point that you just mentioned, that comes from the United Nations. So where's the room for local in any of this?
Well, I guess they get to set their reduction target, right? I guess they get to choose whether they want to participate or not for a start. And then they would set their reduction target. They don't have to go with the 40% like we saw in Lethbridge. They can plot their own course. They could reach out to their community a little bit better and find local solutions that aren't based on expensive new technology. There's a lot of nature-based things that they could do, but they're just taking the recommendations from the program. And, you know, the whole resolution to join, it basically gets one councillor and one staff member to act as a liaison between ICLEI and the FCM and their council. So the staff are kind of taking the ICLEI municipal plans, templates, and turning that into a local municipal plan. And
so
then
it's a cookie cutter approach. I mean, every municipality across the country is doing the same plan, regardless of whether they are, you know, abutted against a river or in the mountains or in the middle of the prairies. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane. Are you still shocked that you see so many councillors out there completely clueless about this plan that's infiltrated their cities?
I'm not shocked. It's a huge gap that we can fill. I think that there's just a lack of education. The organization ICLEI has basically worked behind the scenes. They don't, the councillors don't even know who ICLEI is, and yet they've partnered with them. So there's so much education that we can do to our councillors and just give them this information, and it helps them to see that maybe they don't know exactly what's going on here, and together we can figure it out, because I don't know everything either. I'm learning as I go in this too. And, I throw it out there and experiment a little bit, and I might be right 80% of the time, but sometimes, we gotta work with the system we have, and this is really low-hanging fruit, this whole program. And
Are you
not
saying
shocked.
it's easy to get done what you've already accomplished, and what would be the higher hanging fruit? Like when you move forward, I mean, what's next? Are we talking about going after major cities like Toronto and Montreal?
Lethbridge is the city, right? So I was actually very surprised to see a city. I have been more advocating to rural and small towns and say, hey, what are you guys doing? You're surrounded by forests and farmlands. You don't need to be doing any of this. But to see Lethbridge back out was great. And it gives me a lot of hope. I think that we are planting seeds of information, and it is as truthful as we understand it to be. And it's fascinating to watch. Like, it seems like we go in and do a delegation, and a year later, the staff are the ones that are doing, and that's doing the recommendations. And that's what KICLEI is all about. We recognize that we can't force our councils to do anything. We can't go in and demand that they do things. But if we go in and we gently provide information and just leave it there, they're the ones who are motivated to do something. And that's what their job is as elected representatives and as staff. So instead of making them the enemy, we're becoming their friends and their allies.
So make them think it was their idea in the first place. That's the plan. That's a fantastic plan. How many municipalities across the country have been infected by the Partners for Climate Protection?
So officially about 522, it says on their website. I know you've put the map up before. I love how they have a map. Anyone can go and look, and see. If you go to the Partners for Climate Protection Program website and look at the members, you can see if your municipality is signed up. But so many more are doing a climate action plan based on the 5 milestones through consultants or NGOs that are likely affiliated with KICLEI.
So when it's funny, you mentioned earlier too that there's always one councillor or one member of the staff who is directed to act as the liaison between council and the FCM or the Partners for Climate Protection / KICLEI, whatever it is. Is that person usually a volunteer, or are they designated by the council, or because what I'm seeing here is we need to find out who those people are, right? They need to be ferreted out so that we can see the head of the snake, right? And it's like a murder mystery, right? So we've got 10 people in a room and we're looking around.
Who did it?
Oh, yeah, it's like Colonel Mustard in the library with a wrench, right?
Yeah. It is. It is like a bit of a game. And honestly, it is not hard to see who it is. All you have to do is show up at your council and watch, and you will know which councillor is always moving these action items onto the agenda. And, they'll refer to a certain staff member who did such a great job putting together this new municipal plan. And it's not coming from that municipal staff member. It's coming from KICLEI and the FCM. So essentially from the United Nations and the federal government. So international organizations and the federal government are bypassing provincial jurisdiction to implant and embed their policies at the local level, at the municipal level, where they have no business being, and really taking the focus off of what should be the municipal priorities and redirecting funds away from what municipalities are supposed to be spending money on to fund EV charging stations, a new electric fleet for their staff. It's disgusting, to be honest.
Yeah, they can spend millions on that. Wasn't there a community just recently who said we're switching all of our fleet to electric and we're putting all these charging stations in at a cost of $12 million or something like that?
Yeah, Oxford County, they are really going for 100% renewables. They are all in. They have a mayor that is just blind at this point to reason, and that's okay, because I think the rest of the 60 councillors in his county are going to see what's going on here. But yeah, they were going to spend about $13 million to replace their entire fleet. So just around 60 vehicles, to reduce CO2 by 400 tons per year, which is essentially 13 billionth of 1% of CO2 in the atmosphere. It's essentially nothing. So $13 million for nothing.
Yeah. And what's the CO2 in the atmosphere? What's the latest number? Was it 0.04%? Something like that? That's insane. Yeah. But this mayor that you're talking about, I think you told me about him on the phone. Isn't he saying, this is my life's work? This is something I've been working for my entire life, and now I'm this close, like a mad scientist?
It's his legacy. And, we're trying to kind of build that bridge and say, you can be the mayor that brings environmental stewardship to this county, but it doesn't mean that you need to entangle yourself with multinational organizations and corporations and spend millions of dollars doing it. Like, this is, if you zoom in on Oxford County, it's essentially the entire thing is green. Like, look at a map. It is a green.
Well, it's Canada, right? Country. I mean, like, outside of I'm going to say the 416, I mean, the entire country is a carbon sinkhole, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got a background in this. I mean, you know about this stuff, so it must be double infuriating for you.
It is. And we're just not seeing the right numbers. On the KICLEI website main page, we always have new tools for people. So we recently did a CO2 context calculator. And if you're watching your local agenda and you're reading the reports coming from your environmental committee or your green fleet committee or anything, you're going to see the same thing. We want to reduce CO2 by 400 tons per year, and it's going to cost us $13 million. And we want to buy this, and this, and this from that and that company, right? Like, so you can put those numbers in now into the calculator and find out how much they're actually spending per ton and how much that equates to CO2 in the atmosphere, from the Canadian context, the human context, and the atmospheric context. You can put in your population and find out how much CO2 you actually produce each year. And then you can put in all your carbon sinks. So you can get the hectares of forest and wetlands in your area and figure out that you're actually absorbing more CO2 already. So all of this is pointless.
This is crazy. And when we think about it, as you mentioned, the Canadian context, right? So Canada's already a big, huge carbon sinkhole. By the way, don't let me forget, I've got a request from one of our viewers. Her name is Doris. She's in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan, and I'm not sure if you've heard from her, or Lloydminster, Alberta. I forget which side she's on, but I think it's Saskatchewan. She's got an issue with what's going on there. Protect your property rights. Attention, residents of the county of Vermilion River. This is going on all over the place, definitely. But the Canadian context, giant carbon sinkhole. Why don't people understand, these councillors and these CAOs and all of these bureaucrats across the country, that if the United States, China, India, all of the big pollution producing countries don't do anything, then why should we have to suffer over here? Because we're so much smaller and produce so much less of this dangerous gas. And yet here we are paying a carbon tax. Well, not right now, but we will be again. And going through all these hoops through municipal. I mean, how do we make people understand this?
I think that
I noticed you
think
chuckled when I asked that question. You laughed.
I think they do understand it. They just need to grow a backbone. And the way that we can help them is by going in there and politely saying what needs to be said so that they have the courage to echo what needs to be said. And that seems to be what's happening. I think that they do know, but they're being bullied, and they need us to show up with a room full of people and just say, hey,
Okay. Now
what's going on?
Yeah, you just said bullied. Who's bullying them? Is it KICLEI, Partners for Climate Protection? Is it that liaison between council and KICLEI? Who's doing the bullying? Is it like other groups around town, climate extremist groups who were trying this? Like what does that mean?
Oh, that's a great question. So definitely the liaison between the program is trained in using language and emotion to pressure the council into doing this. They have local activists that will go in and try and, make it seem like this is the right choice to go for zero emissions by 2050 and so on. And it's not so much necessarily bullying, but manipulation. And this program is presented as a marketing scheme, right? So they're told it's free, and then they invest money into doing this massive data collection. So they've already spent money, sunk cost, and then they set a reduction target. So now they're locked in, and it's like a pay to play after that. And if they go back on it, they're basically saying we got suckered. So we're not going to do that. And nobody wants to call it out. And they are being bullied. There's networks like the Climate Caucus, and I won't say it's all bad, that every counselor in the Climate Caucus is bad, but they have infiltration manuals on getting their climate agenda pushed through our local councils. So, and it's called the Infiltration Manual. And really, we can learn a lot from reading that so that we can infiltrate our councils and, learn how to network in our councils and present our recommendations. So it's all about civic.
Have you read these infiltration manuals? What are they like?
Essentially similar to what I'm teaching, to be honest. But obviously my recommendations are different and the information that I'm presenting is different. But, all about education, public awareness, training delegates, providing information to council members, creating networks in your town so you're not the only one going in to speak, filling the council chambers, using certain facts that seem to work, and sticking to your message, right? Hammer it.
What do you see the end game here being? I mean, we've got all this climate stuff, and they're saying, well, we got to clean up the world. We've got to go net zero by 2050 because there's a climate emergency, blah, 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 blah. And, there's so many people out there now who are waking up to this nonsense. But ultimately, how do you see this shaking out? Does this have a lot to do with the smart cities? The 15-minute city plans if you look at this story that comes from the CBC regarding Winnipeg, and I know for a fact the same thing is happening in Calgary because I just heard from a friend there today. There's a lot of zoning bylaw changes going on in suburban neighborhoods where they're now allowing 4plexes, 6plexes, 8plexes to be built alongside traditional, single family homes. And this is a densification program, Maggie. They're trying to densify the suburban areas of our large cities. Why? Because there's a housing crisis? Because there's so many immigrants coming to this country? What exactly is going on? Are people moving in from the country? Farmers that have sold their farms, are they coming in from rural areas? Are rural areas shrinking? Exactly how is this going to play out? What do you see happening here?
Yes. So what's the end game? Like you asked at the beginning there, the sustainable development, when we look at that development scheme, when it was created, it's all about redirecting population growth away from rural areas and small towns and into high density urban areas. So there's all these new land use bylaws, and it's just like a slow pull of the population away from rural and small towns to the urban areas. And I think how will this play out? How will we stop it? We definitely need to get ahead of this carbon credit system that Mark Carney is talking about. And, how they're going to penalize companies that don't go along with the carbon agenda and invest in the ones that do. So they're just redirecting wealth and pouring money into this agenda. And to me, we need to cut this off at the Achilles heel, which is at the grassroots level. So if we can target and get this message to municipal councillors across the country, they are the ones who can cut it off at the point where it's actually being implemented, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we can do it. We will probably end up with some variation of, smart cities at the end of the day, because we're moving into a technological era and there will always be some of that. But if we can cut them off from having that kind of influence on rural communities and small towns, then we will essentially put a stop to their agenda fully implementing, in my opinion.
That's interesting. It just seems like it's an unstoppable object at this stage of the game. However, the United States doesn't even seem to have any whiff of any of this happening right now. How is that even possible? I mean, there's not anything like Trump has just stamped all of that out. It wasn't an issue in the American election. I mean, why? And here we are right next to each other. We're a country of 40 million. They're a country of 340 million. We've got more land than they've got. We've got more trees than they've got. We've got more resources, more water, more everything than they've got. And yet we're the ones who have to pay for carbon pollution. It just makes no sense to me. And how people buy this, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. They, at the state level, ICLEI is across the border too, right? They've banned municipal partnerships with ICLEI in a few states. I know Tennessee for sure. I found their resolution. And so even if the federal government has kind of backed out of the Paris Accord, I'm sure California is still going for it, right? And they're partnered with ICLEI in order to do that. So we might not hear as much about it, but they are there.
So they are, but just not on the federal level. I see.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was about to ask about the Wildlands project, because that's obviously the next thing when they start herding us into these mega regions. I've seen the mega regions map. Have you seen that? Obviously you have.
Is that the one just of the North America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got, interestingly, we talk about the 51st state, right? Like all this big elbows up crap lately. These mega regions reach across border. There is no Canadian-US border when you look at the mega region maps. Like the Toronto area merges with Buffalo. Vancouver merges with the Seattle area. And in that scenario, there is no Canada. There's no United States. It's just, these are the mega regions that people are allowed to live in. And then you've got semi-protected areas. And then you've got no-go zones where you absolutely cannot go. No member of the public can ever go there. There's no access allowed. The roads are all shut down. And I find that alarming, because currently in this, present moment, we are allowed to go to these regions. But in 20 years' time or 5 or 10 years' time, we won't be allowed to go to these regions, and they're always going to tell us that it's for our own safety, it's for our own good. There's an emergency out there, and this is very 1984 to me.
That's what I was thinking as soon as you were talking about that. I had that thought driving through Algonquin Park last year. You know, what they want is one day everyone in the city, and you'll be able to get on a bus and go through Algonquin Park and be like, look at the trees that we're saving. And
like at the museum,
you'll be able
right?
to like get out and touch a tree, and then you'll have to go back into the city and take your medication, you know?
Right. That's exactly how it sounds. And that's what we're fighting back against. And that's why I think the work you're doing is so important. How many people are you having reach out to you on the regular now? Because it seems like you're building teams all across the country.
You know, I feel my work is to provide information, and essentially I've been a catalyst. You know, I went in, I tried something, and it seems to be having results, right? And the more we do it, the more it's working. But all across this country, we do need people to just keep an eye on their agendas, and absolutely get in touch with me if you see something and you want some feedback on that. Join and be a member of KICLEI through our website. We have a join us form, so we kind of can figure out where everyone is. If you just subscribe to the newsletter, I don't know which province you're in. I just know what your email is. So that's why we had to make the website and get a join us form up there, and just have a central spot for gathering our people together. And yeah, we have teams across the country. A lot of people are reading the information I'm putting out there, reading our code of conduct, which essentially are the principles that we're having results with, and we're able to get better collaboration between us and the councils with. And
oh, look, there's that new tool, that CO2 context calculator.
Yeah.
Oh, should I try it? Oh,
everyone should try it.
Yeah.
We have new pamphlets. We have new stuff every month. And every month we have a national Zoom meeting that you can register for. It's also on the website there. And I'll basically go over some local wins, some things that have happened in that last month. We have probably anywhere from 3 to 5 areas that are active every month that are going in doing delegations or communicating with their council, or councils just doing awesome stuff or bad stuff, and we want to showcase that. And then I'll present like some key articles that we should really share with councils across the country, because the whole point of the KICLEI newsletter is to get these articles in front of municipal councillors and have them read it, right? Like send it to them. And
you know, Maggie, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You are such a warm and disarming person.
Thank you.
I got a chance to meet Maggie a year ago at the Canada Stronger Together conference that we held in Beausejour, and we've become pretty good friends since then. Have you ever had a moment where you've gone in with a delegation and you've addressed the council and they have dismissed you out of hand? Have you ever gotten upset, angry? And I know that you preach the code of conduct. You absolutely must maintain your composure. But has there ever been a moment where you want to go and rip one of these councillors' faces off?
So, good question. I've never thought about that. I've never been angry about this ever. I have always found this work to be very satisfying. It is actually an outlet for me. I probably have anger in other areas, and that's my own personal thing, but this is probably the most satisfying thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm probably going to continue doing this for the rest of my life. I love this work, and And I find it a very good return on investment for my energy. So
there's a lot of times, I asked Maggie earlier in the week, can you come on the show this week and talk about Lethbridge and all of the things you're doing? Oh, no. I'm very busy this week. I've got seminars, I've got meetings, I've got papers to write, I've got art. And then she found some time for us tonight. So I want to thank you for coming on. And quickly moving to a different subject, last week, you got a chance to go up to Ottawa and sit with your friends from the Freedom Convoy. For those of you that don't know, I'm sorry, I just had something come out there. For those of you that don't know, Maggie was at the Freedom Convoy. She kneeled on a Canadian flag in front of the police when they pretty much laid siege to all of the Freedom Convoy people in downtown Ottawa. You didn't move. You had a gun pulled to your head. You've testified at the Public Order Emergency Commission. You were involved in all of that. So to see all of your friends, Chris, Tamara, Chris Dacey was out there. I think you had a couple of folks from Rebel News out there. That must have been kind of nice for you.
It was always healing to kind of go back to Ottawa and be with such amazing people. I just find that whole, even yourself, to be really supportive. There's people out there that you don't want to tell your plans to, you don't want to say what's good in your life to, but the group that we've come together with is just amazing people and really good speakers. So I know people say I'm a good speaker, but I get inspired every time I hear you speak, or Chris or Tamara and Chris Dacey. You just put him in front of a camera, that man can speak, right? So I just love it. It gives me that courage to keep using my voice and platform for good. And I really enjoyed seeing them. So I hope you have fun on your trip. I know that is one of my favorite things to do is get in a car and go. My second favorite thing to do, aside from sitting home and writing. So.
Right. Writing, reading, watching. This is good. Jim Kerr, I had him on last week or the week before from the Ostrich Farm.
Jim.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And, he said that, because he was a convoy, obviously, as well, that the energy out there smacks of the Freedom Convoy. It's not nearly as large, obviously. The population of the farm goes up and down on the daily, anywhere between 40 and 100 people. And on weekends, they could go up as high as 100. They've got live music there. They're bringing in porta potties. They've got barbecues going and all of that. And it's, I want to be a part of that. And you said as well on the phone to me last week that you felt drawn to the place is it the same reason you were drawn to Ottawa?
Absolutely. And there's hot springs all around that area. But think about it. The people in British Columbia and out your way, a lot of people couldn't get to Ottawa, right? So the fact that this is happening in British Columbia, it absolutely is a place where people can come together. What a beautiful time of year. Stand up for our rights and freedoms in a different way. And really, this is where the battle line is. Like this is a person's property. This is their livestock. And Katie is such a great spokesperson for this cause, and they're doing everything right, in my opinion, press releases and so on. And I'm not surprised that they had positive results by going and speaking to their local council about not allowing these birds in their dump, and that their council would make some accommodations to at least say, we want to test the birds first. So again, a local win. Here's the federal government, or a weird arm of the federal government, trying to enforce its policies on the people. And at the end of the day, if the local municipal government says, no, you're not using our dump, they can't
without
do anything.
Testing. Without testing, they said. Like, well, you got to test them first just to prove that they're not a health hazard. And they don't want to do that, right? Which is excellent news.
Yeah.
I see you as an inspiration for people. right? Like I spent my life doing radio work, so this comes naturally to me. Public speaking and just meeting people. I like people in general, but I see people like yourself and Katie, you know, you've found your voices and you've managed to get your message out to people. And did you ever see yourself doing this? You know, 5 years ago, was this ever a thing?
So 5 years ago, I kind of had lost my way, I would say. When I was younger, I did have that spark and that energy, and I've definitely gotten my spark back. And
no, I mean,
yeah,
like public speaking and doing all of this stuff. And so when I say found your voice, I mean, when I first, and I said this to Katie as well, when you guys first came on my show, it seemed like deer in the headlights a little bit because you had a little bit, you hadn't been through it, right? And now you're like a seasoned professional, a veteran. You come on, you know your information, you know your stuff, you're very well spoken with it. And the reason I say that is because I want other people to feel inspired by that, and they can find their voices as well. You know, like we got this message tonight from Doris over in Lloydminster there, and you know, Doris, you can make a difference, Doris. You can. Right? You just need a little push in the right direction. What is the biggest obstacle that you find from people who reach out to you as to why they can't progress, why they can't move forward and do the things required to go to their city councils and make their case?
I think maybe it's fear holding them back. A little bit of fear, just pushing through that initial fear and doing it once will open the door and you'll see some positive results from it. So really just taking that first step is the way into this whole realm of local civic engagement wins that you will have. So yeah, fear, and just realizing that fear is a good thing. It means that you're on the verge of doing something important and just to go for it.
Yeah, you just got to go for it. And for you, I guess the moment when you're kneeling on a Canadian flag in the streets of Ottawa with all of those police converging on you, one of them pulls a gun, points it at your head. I mean, I don't think I could ever imagine a scarier scenario than that. So this is nothing. Right, doing what you're doing now.
Almost everything I do now is nothing compared to that moment. And it was the Bill of Rights. And absolutely everything after that moment that I was afraid to do, I did instantly, and I still do it instantly. So I try not to go out too much and cause too much havoc. But when I do, I do.
How's your summer schedule? Is it like busy? Are you going to be traveling a lot, going out and meeting people and doing public speaking?
I haven't put too much thought into it. I kind of want to take a bit of time to just enjoy the children. I do have a series of articles already pre-scheduled to be going out all summer long. And I want to basically just keep up with everything and get back to connecting with people more one-on-one and helping them behind the scenes with their projects. That's where I'm best utilized, I would say, and probably get more back into the public speaking in the fall, I would say.
You should come to the ostrich farm.
Yeah, I need a 2-week window, and I think that would be about 2 weeks away from now. So if you're still there, I'll see you.
I'm not going to be there for 2 weeks. I'm not going to do it. Jim's been there a month already, I think, and he's not going anywhere until there's a resolution one way or another. I'm hoping and praying that CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, doesn't show up. The call order is in. They've got an appeal in as well. There's all kinds of moving parts to this story. It's gotten a lot of attention worldwide. RFK Jr. Has asked CFIA to consider stopping this cull. Dr. Oz is speaking with Katie at the farm. She's got a lot of different people, Newsmax people, who are helping her out as well. And now what we're finding is that we're starting to get people with money and time who are taking an interest in this as well. So I really hope. And the thing about government overreach, we've all experienced, is when they've made that decision, and you said it earlier tonight too, you make a decision like this and it's public, you go back on it, you kind of look like a fool, right? So you've got to stick by it, even if it's wrong.
Yeah. So the key is to build a bridge for them. We need to find a way for for them to get out of this, and like negotiation and diplomacy have to be used. Like we can't, it's easy to see them as the enemy, but if we want them to do what we want them to do, we have to look at it in a different way. And that might take, a moment of inspiration in the morning, thinking, how can we do this a little differently? So I love that they went to the local level and have done press releases, but maybe there's letters that could be sent. Maybe there's other ways we can look at it. But
yeah, you can't storm the gates, right? You can go with torches and rotten fruit and vegetables and start throwing it at the king. That's a last resort, maybe, right?
Yeah, the forks and the pitchfork people come in handy sometimes.
Yeah, but again, like that's the fun. You guys are in the back. You guys with the pitchforks and the torches, you can come in when everything else didn't work. Thank you. Maggie, Maggie, thanks for coming on tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know that you're busy. And by the way, I am going to be, because I know that Chris and Tamara are being sentenced at the end of July, so they got to go back to Ottawa again. I know. But I thought, that would be kind of a good time for me to go out east so I can show my support to them in court, and then, meet some folks along the way out east.
You would love it. You would love it. Yeah.
Well, I've been there. I've been there before. I used to live in Ottawa, right? Like I lived there for a couple of years, but there's so many great people. And of course I would stop and see you, and it's an amazing
people
thing
in Peterborough plan something for Shadow.
No. It's not even that. It's just you get a chance to go out and meet people. That is such a magical moment for me. With all of the stuff that's happened to us in the last 5 years, to be able to meet some of these folks who have been dedicated viewers for this show for almost as long, it's something that I'm never going to forget. And that's why I'm looking forward to it so much. Thanks, Maggie. And I'll talk to you again soon. We all will.
Can I end with one thing?
Of course.
Sorry.
Of course.
I wanted to say you are so loved across this country. And a lot of the people that I go and work with, whether it's in Northern Alberta or Southern Ontario or Northern Ontario, they say that a lot of them say that they've seen me first on Shadow, and that's how they learned about it. So thank you for all you're doing to share not just my message, but everyone's message. And you do such a great job. And I hope you have a wonderful summer, and I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah, me too. I already got emotional live on the show once this week because of Ken and Rosalie's video. I don't want to do it again.
Aww. We love you.
Thanks, Maggie. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We're not done. We've still got a couple more things to cover before we get into the extension tonight on shadowdavis.com. By the way, have you ever heard of the ELIZA Effect? The ELIZA Effect is the effect of the World Wide Web on us, the effect of video games on us, and how it's ruining us, essentially. We're going to look into that in the extension tonight for the all access folks at shadowdavis.com. Now, it looks like, and you guys can tell me this in the Telegram group, please. It looks like we're having trouble streaming to the website right now. Is this happening, or are you guys able to catch the show on the website right now? Because I've got a message here that says it's it's having trouble getting out there, and I don't know if that's true or not. So please let me know in the Telegram group. Shadow at Night community on Telegram if you're thinking about joining it. There are so many awesome people there as well. Mark Carney wants to spend $486 billion this year. That's our money. And that's how much he wants to spend. Same amount or maybe a little bit more than Trudeau spent last year. Watch this.
Mark Carney promised more fiscal discipline, and he plans to spend $486 billion this year. That's about the same as the Trudeau government did last year. But even that is too much for the Conservatives.
Just like Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney's spending is absolutely out of control. In fact, it's worse.
This week's spending plan is certain to change in the fall once it is updated with the $24 billion in new spending commitments the Liberals made during the election campaign. The plan really is a first step, a baseline, and one required to essentially keep the government's lights on. Still, MPs will be asked to vote on it without the benefit of having a budget, which would detail how the government plans to raise the revenue for all this spending.
With the economic storm clouds moving in, how is it possible not to have a budget this spring?
Moreover, MPs will be asked to vote on this spending with few details about it, though the government promises ministers will provide details later.
There will be extensive examination with ministers being accountable for those sums in the House of Commons, more than that has ever occurred in recent memory.
Trust us. We haven't got a budget. We're not telling you what we're spending your money on. It's only $486 billion. It's not really that much. Don't worry about it. You go have yourself an awesome summer, and we'll get back to you in the fall. That's the elbows up crowd. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to go to the lake this year, and they're going to go completely and totally confident that they made the right move in the election by voting Liberal. Completely oblivious. Just trust them. Trust them. This is the same group of people that for the past 10 years have brought this country to its knees. It's astounding, don't you think? One more thing I want to cover here before we go to the extension tonight. Actually, two more things. This one came from City News Everywhere. Almost 70% of Canadians surveyed want child vaccines to be mandatory. What? I mean, how could you ever say something like that? These people are still living in a bag, man. They haven't got a clue. I got into a discussion that turned into an argument, a debate, then to an argument earlier today on social media with a guy I've known for like 20 years. Hey, Shadow, there's no such thing as chemtrails, but I guess it's good stuff for your conspiracy theory audience, huh? I said, yeah, all 100,000 of them, because they see them every single day almost. You know, when you've got those crisscross patterns in the sky, do you think that's a natural phenomenon? A new poll suggests nearly 70% of Canadians support mandatory childhood vaccinations, but at least one public health official says she's uncomfortable with the idea of forcing parents to immunize their kids. Everybody else, go for it. The Angus Reid Institute survey landed today. As Public Health Ontario said, 93 new measles cases have emerged in the province over the past week, bringing the total number of infections there to 1,888 since October. Okay, so the population of Ontario, by the way, is pretty close to 17 million. And they're worried about 1,188 cases of the measles, where you got a fever and some spots on your face or maybe your chest for a week, and then you're good to go, and you'll never get it again. It's a childhood malady. I was happy to get the measles when I was a kid. I didn't have to go to school. The poll found 69% of respondents said proof of immunization should be required for kids to attend daycare and school. That's an increase from the 55% of respondents who said the same thing last year. before a measles outbreak emerged in multiple provinces and infected mostly unvaccinated infants, kids, and teens. That's not true at all either. It's not. This is a bogus story. Once again, from the left-wing corporate media. Once again. This is interesting. I posted this on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I think earlier today. By the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, it's just at Shadow Davis. It's no big thing. I do put up clips of the show once a week and pictures every now and again. I don't use it for social media. I don't use it for the show, but it's just a place where I can put stuff up. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, feel free. If Alberta or any of the Western provinces, for that matter, tried to adopt something like this, it would be bigot, racist, on blast. But in Quebec, no, just Quebec being Quebec. Quebec has adopted immigrant integration bill with model distinct from Canadian multiculturalism. That's the immigration minister of Quebec there, Jean-François Roberge. And here's the story. Roberge conceded yesterday that Quebec's new immigration integration law may discourage some people from wanting to move to the province. Oh, I think that's the point. Immigrants scouting country should be aware that if they choose to come to Quebec, they cannot expect to find the same multiculturalism model that exists in other provinces, Roberge said. That system, he said, has been relegated to the limbo of history where it belongs, with the adoption Wednesday of Bill 84, an act respecting national integration. The legislation was voted into law by a vote of 86-27, with the Liberals and Quebec Solidaire opposition parties voting against. Presented in January, the law obliges the state, its ministries, cities, schools, and even community organizations staging festivals that receive public financial assistance to participate fully in the integration of new arrivals. Integration into the Quebec culture and society. For their part, immigrants are expected to respect a social contract between them and Quebec and to adhere to and respect Quebec's democratic values, to have a knowledge of Quebec and learn the French language if they have not mastered it on arrival. Wow. The law states French is the official and common language of integration. Quebec culture is the common culture. Women and men are equal, and Quebec is a secular state. I can't say how immigrants will react. Roberge said at a news conference after the vote, we're changing the contract. We're changing the way we explain our way of life here. Maybe some people who never thought about living in Quebec will say, wow, I want to go there. I want to go to Quebec because it reflects my values. Some people may say the exact opposite, that this doesn't fit with me. Do I really want to come to Quebec? I have no intention of learning French. I have no interest in learning about a distinct culture. He says, we'll see. Roberge refuted accusations leveled by some groups that appeared during hearings into the bill that the exercise is designed to assimilate the cultural identity of new arrivals. It is. He can deny it all he wants. It is. And that's fine. Quebec welcomes about 50,000 immigrants every year. He said, this is not an assimilationist bill because we say Quebec's culture is our common culture. We're proud of that. We want people to adhere. He completely and totally contradicted himself in that one sentence. I love it, but it's still hypocritical. He's denying what's right in front of his face, right in front of everybody's face. He goes on to say, but we want them to contribute. The word is very important. We want newcomers, everyone in Quebec, to contribute. We don't want to just assimilate them and forget who they are. We want them to bring something new. This is a huge part of what it is to be a Quebecer. Quebecers are open-minded. Wait a minute. But just don't bring that hijab with you. Immediately after the adoption of the law, Roberge presented a separate motion in the legislature stating Quebec possesses its own model of national integration that favors cohesion and opposes isolationism and communitarianism. Ooh. How long does it take to learn French? Do you think I could be fluent in 6 months? Is that something that could be accomplished? The extension is coming up tonight, you guys, and for some reason we're having trouble streaming on the website tonight. So I will put the entire show on the website later. We are still going to stream tonight on Telegram. We're going to stream on Telegram tonight for the extension, which is coming up in 2 minutes. Tonight we will discuss the ELIZA Effect. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock Central Time, I'm getting in the car and I'm heading to Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, British Columbia, making a lot of stops along the way. So first stop at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning will be Winkler, Manitoba. I'm going to stop at the corner of Main and Memorial. There's a Tim Hortons there. There's a German restaurant there, parking lot. So if you want to come and meet me and give me something for the ostrich farm, Katie says they need meat, vegetables, and water. I'm not going to be carrying meat with me during my 2 days. I won't be able to refrigerate it. Same with vegetables, but I will carry water if you want to bring some water along, cases of water. Maybe I'll just stop at a grocery store along the way because they're an hour and a half removed from a grocery store as well. So I could do that as I get closer to the ostrich farm on Saturday. So Winkler, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then Brandon at about 12 or 12:30, I'll be stopping on the main highway, not in the city, but on the main number 1 highway, stopping at the SO/Husky there. Then it's going to be Regina. I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to stop there yet, but I will let you know. I'll be doing updates. And then Swift Current, I'll be stopping in the Big Sky Casino parking lot there. Then it's going to be Medicine Hat, maybe the Big Teepee. We'll plan that as we go along. And then it's going to be Calgary for the night. Saturday morning at 9 o'clock for anybody in the Calgary area. We're going to get together at Angels Cafe. And I'm going to hang out there for an hour and a half or so. So if you want to come out and say hello, Angels Cafe. I talked to Kathy on the phone this morning. She said, absolutely. See you on Saturday. So we're going to do a Saturday thing again. Angels Cafe in Calgary Northwest. And then I'm going to be off, stopping in Golden, British Columbia. And we're going to stop in Revelstoke. And when I say we, I mean me. And then we make it south to Universal Ostrich Farm. Should be there sometime around 5 o'clock Pacific time, maybe 6 o'clock Pacific time on Saturday. And I will do a thing from Universal Ostrich Farm the second I'm there. So, and like I said, updates along the way as well. So I would love for you guys to come out to one of those places, monitor the Shadow Davis Show Facebook page so that you know where I'm at. So you don't miss me. I don't miss you. I would love to see you. It'll be great. Okay. And that means that next week, the show is not going to happen at 8 o'clock every night. It's going to be intermittent throughout the day. It's going to be posted. It'll be live on Facebook. I'll post the rest of it on Rumble and on X and YouTube after the lives. I hope that makes sense. Okay, you guys, I'll talk to you later on. Extension coming up in 2 minutes. We'll be right back.